A momentous Supreme Court term begins tomorrow. At stake, hugely significant cases that could test the power of Donald Trump's presidency. And it follows an unusually contentious summer, as the justices were flooded with a record number of emergency appeals from the White House, weighing in on immigration, foreign aid, and who Trump can fire, and often siding with the president. So what does that mean for this term? For that, I'm joined now by CNN's chief Supreme Court analyst, Joan Biskupic, to help break this all down. Joan, I'm so glad you're here because you know this stuff better than pretty much anybody. So we're beginning the term tomorrow. What are you watching?
Well, first of all, in this first sitting in October, we have a really good Voting Rights Act case that would be important for your viewers especially. It tests just how broadly the 1965 Voting Rights Act will be applied when states have been found to have discriminated against Black or Hispanic voters in drawing redistricting maps, drawing boundaries that diluted the power of their votes, and whether, as a remedy, states would then be forced to draw what are known as majority minority districts, where they at least consolidate Blacks or Hispanics to give them a chance to elect the candidates of their choice. So there's some tension there between the protections of the 1965 Voting Rights Act and the constitutional guarantee of equal protection. So that comes up this month.
Huge impact, huge implications for the midterms.
Definitely for 2026 and beyond. And then in November, we have a test of President Trump's tariffs. That's, the tariffs that date back to April and his so-called Liberation Day, and just whether he exceeded his power in doing those. That's going to be closely watched, and the justices fast-tracked that because of the billions of dollars at stake. And then in December and January, they're hearing two separate cases that will test his power to remove the heads of independent agencies, including with repercussions for the Federal Reserve, which he's been heavily pressuring.
So, if he wins on those,
yeah,
he could have more say on the economy. If he loses on the tariffs, it could have such a huge impact on economic policy as well. So just such a momentous moment here. And it comes at this time of tension between the justices. Really, have you ever seen this much tension among justices before?
Well, not in my time, but it's happened before, there used to be, the old phrase, 9 scorpions in a bottle, so they have historically had their bad moments. But this current bench is so divided, and in part it's because of, I think, our polarized times and the way that, the 3 Trump justices came in and sort of energized the right wing in a way that's only really pitted the two sides at each other. Back in the day when I first started covering the court, it would be rare for me to even note the president who had appointed a justice or a judge, who was ruling. But now it's so relevant because of how carefully both sides have made their nominations to the court. And, I think what we saw through the summer as they heard those cases over, you mentioned it at the top of the show, deportations, federal funds, firings, who grant money, you name it, they had those cases come up. And usually, Manu, they have a pretty good restful, restorative summer. It was not a restful summer. And I think we have a comment that Justice Sonia Sotomayor said at one point that reflects the divisions and how the liberal justices are so certain that the default mode of the conservatives is always rule for them. And she said, today's order clarifies only one thing. Other litigants must follow the rules, but the administration has the Supreme Court on speed dial.
Oof.
I know.
You don't usually see that.
No, and you can imagine that did not make her conservative colleagues happy.
No, I can't imagine it.
Yeah.
And you've literally written the book about John Roberts, the Chief Justice, and you had a story recently about how the Roberts Court became the Trump Court. This is now 20 years as chief, which is unbelievable. I remember when he got confirmed. Are you surprised that he has given Trump so much latitude?
Well, think of how much the court has changed. He already came in very conservative. He was a Reagan conservative, so he already came in that way. But he was somebody who could at times gravitate toward the center. Remember, he cast the key vote to save Obamacare in 2012. And he's always been a little bit more institution-minded to try to protect the integrity of the bench. But now he has 5 right-wing justices on the other side of him. And I think his mode of operation is sort of, if I can't beat him, if I can't compromise with him, I better join him, because then he can at least control the opinions. But he has gone very far, as you know, just a year ago with the immunity ruling, giving Donald Trump essentially a blank check to do what he's doing right now with his many policies. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised that he's dug in so far on the right wing. But you know,
do you expect him to in this term as well?
Well, I think he's very aware of the criticism of the court these days. He's somebody who, you know, understands that the court is supposed to remove itself from politics, and right now it's so embroiled in politics. I could see him trying to at least maybe pull another justice over more toward the center to at least look like it's trying to reach some sort of more balanced set of rulings. But, you know, it's kind of like what I've always, the Obamacare decision, we felt that we could take that further into his tenure, but now I'm wondering if basically that chapter of his life is over, and now, as I say, if he can't beat him, join him on the right wing.
Is he aware of, again, the polls have just been brutal about the Supreme Court. Just how confident are you in the judicial branch Supreme Court? A Gallup poll recently, just 16% of the American public. That's stunning.
It is, and what he says is that they tune it out. They're here to decide the law. But I think you're going to see more statements in opinions or in public statements on the stump where they try to explain themselves a little bit more to potentially inspire some confidence.
Yeah, because I mean the Supreme Court is a black box, as you know,
yeah, right.
So more than any other institutions. All right, Joan, so great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Sure.
Your expertise is invaluable.